Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the Ocrolus Product Pulse. Today we're excited to share an exciting enhancement to an existing solution, Docs to Digital. So please use the Q&A module in Zoom if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to address them throughout the presentation and at the end. My name is Vicky from the marketing team, and I'm joined today by Nike Patterson, our Director of Product, and Lokesh Bakar, our Senior Product Manager. So just a quick rundown of what the team will cover today. We'll review the Docs to Digital product, cover its new availability in the dashboard, and then the team will give you a demo to see what it looks like, and we'll end by answering any questions you have. So I'll pass it over to Nike and Lakesh to get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Vicky. All right, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk about Docs to Digital and recap why we built this. And if you're thinking, haven't I seen a product pulse on this topic before? You would be correct. We have done this. This has been an evolution of a product, and we've done a lot more with it. So thanks to great client feedback, and we've built out a lot more functionality. But to just give you a recap of what the product is, what the use case is, I'll take you back to a conversation I've had with many of our lenders and funders over the past year or so, and I have increasingly heard that it is a best practice for folks in our industry to underwrite based on bank statements. And that is because you may be getting, if you're a funder or lender, you may be getting a packet of bank statements and a few other pieces of information from a broker partner or an ISO. You may be getting information directly from the merchant, but either way, most of the time, bank statements is an easier, less frictionful way of sharing bank data up front. And if you can get digital data from your merchant upfront, that's awesome. If you have a direct channel, more power to you. That's great. You should do that. But a lot of the time, merchants don't want to share that level of bank credential information upfront very early in the process. So what I hear folks telling me is, hey, I underwrite on bank statement data. That's where I use Ocrolus's suite of 500 plus cash flow analytics to really dig into the financial health of this merchant. And then once I've gone through the process and I've decided that I do want to move forward with funding that merchant, that's the point at which funders are telling me it's an increasingly best practice move to request the digital bank data from the merchant. A lot of the time, I'm hearing folks use Plaid as a very common way to connect digitally to a merchant's bank account. And the reason for doing that is at that point in the process, you've already told the merchant, hey, I'm going to approve you. This is just one last step. And that final step is to ensure that everything that the merchant represented in their bank statements and throughout the application process is in fact also represented in the immutable digital bank data source. So it's really to make sure all of that data is consistent once you can actually look in the digital data source. It's also sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. I know we're all trying to fund faster and faster. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag between underwriting time and time to actually fund. It's also just make sure that the revenue, debt position, all that financial data, that cash flow data, just still looks like it's trending according to what you believe it should once you get that plan data. So the process is underwrite on bank statements right before funding, request that your merchant connects to a digital bank data source. And then this is what really baffled me. Our funders were telling me, I am sometimes at peak times staffing 2, 3, multiple underwriters to manage our queue of these deals that are about to get funded. And they are doing a literal stare and compare of the digital bank data versus the bank statements. They're going as best they can, line by line, and trying to make sure all the transactions match up. And it's actually a futile exercise because sometimes there's hundreds, even thousands of transactions. So at best, they can spot check. And even when they're spot checking, they're spending 20, 30 minutes of expensive, valuable underwriter time to do that exercise. And it's not even that accurate. So we built a solution at Ocrolus that essentially eliminates all of that manual work. When you send us the bank statements for underwriting, you're going to get all the Ocrolus cash flow analytics goodness that you're used to getting. And then you can send us the Plaid data or the digital data source for us to do an automatic check. We automatically compare the bank data versus that digital data and tell you, did everything match up? So you no longer have to wait. It's done within seconds. It's quick. And we also tell you what you actually need to pay attention to. So maybe, Vicky, we go to the next slide. Just a quick visual representation. This is a bit of a crude lending funnel here, but a quick representation of all the processes as a funder you might be going through to underwrite a deal, from data ingestion all the way down to funding. You are pulling this digital data and doing this match right before you actually fund. So kind of step 5 of 6 here, if you will. Yeah, thank you. And then moving on to this last slide. Now, we built this feature all through as an API first solution. But we realized through customer interviews and feedback, we could actually build out a much more complete workflow in our dashboard that made it much easier to visualize the differences between that Plaid digital data and the bank data. It saves time. It's a great fraud detection check. It can, again, make sure that nothing was manipulated in the bank statements that wasn't there in the Plaid data. And you might be thinking, well, Ocrolus, don't you have a fraud detection product for that? And we do. But as fraud becomes increasingly sophisticated, fraudsters are getting really, really good at hiding all the traces of tampering and metadata. We call this sort of the belt and suspenders approach of one last check. Let's just really make sure everything in that immutable digital data source matched with your bank statements. You don't need to do any more underwriting after that. We're about to show you what this looks like in our dashboard. But one key thing I also want to point out is not all mismatches in your Plaid data and your bank data are equal. There's some really high risk severity mismatches you want to know about, and Lokesh is going to show you in a second here. But if someone has debt in their digital data source that did not show up on their bank statement, you need to know about that, right? If someone inflated their revenue on their bank statement and that wasn't true, it didn't hold up on the Plaid data. If there was crypto or gambling or refunds, things like of that nature that show up in the Plaid data that wasn't in the bank statement data, that really critically changes how you would think about funding that merchant or whether you want to fund them at all. So we call that out as high severity mismatch. Then there are lesser severity mismatches and low severity mismatches, which Lokesh is going to elucidate for you in like 30 seconds here. But this is some of the stuff we did to improve the solution and put it into a nice workflow. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Lokesh to show you the solution.
Thank you, Nike, for that wonderful explanation. I think, let me share my screen. Second. Great. So, I'm not really sure. Second. Great. Can you see the screen?
I can see it. I'm looking at your book overview page.
Great. Great. So as a starting point, what I have done is, one second, just give me a minute. Great. So as a starting point, what I've done is I have already created a book, right? We are in your dashboard. This is my overview page. I have already submitted the bank statements for underwriting. I have my fintech loan sources here. I have gone through them. I have checked the revenue profile. I have gone through that as well. I have also gone through the expenses there. I have also gone through the counterparty risk and concentration risk. Now, I have already completed my underwriting process here. The real question arises is this revenue that I see here, is this actual revenue or is this inflated? Or are these fintech sources which are saying zero right now, are this true, or are there any hidden fintech transactions behind this, right? To do that, now let's say I have decided to fund this borrower, but I really want to do a validity check on this data. I have a data for the month of June, July, and August, right? To do that, we can trigger Doxo Digital algorithm by submitting a JSON, which is plat JSON, on the dashboard button. I can either upload it here using the global upload button, or we have also added a new tab called mismatch transactions tab in the transaction sidebar. I can navigate here. There's an upload JSON here. We already select plat JSON and compare bank statements to digital data. It's essential that we select compare bank statements to digital data because this is what triggers the algorithm. For this case, I have already fetched merchants JSON for the last 12 months. Now remember that we have data for just for the month of June, July, and August. But this data has 12 months of bank statement data from Plaid. Now, once I upload and submit, it's going to trigger the Docs to Digital algorithm. Now, this is where the Docs to Digital algorithm really shines.
And by the way, just to jump in really quick, you might be wondering why we had 12 months of Plaid data. That's just a very common pattern we see with our lenders saying, I only submitted 3 months of banks, but when I connect to Plaid or the merchant connects to Plaid and sends me that data, I get 12 months. So we are really doing an apples to apples of just the overlapping 3 months or 4 months of data that's common to both sources.
Great, great. I think to add to Nike's point, now you can see that we have actually stitched the data together in one clean time series format. This has all the 12 months of data, and we had deduplicated data for the month of June, July, and August. Now, going back to the mismatch transactions, we have classified because not all mismatches are equal, we have classified them in three categories, which is high severity, medium severity, and low severity. Now, we also give out a very high level indicator of how severe this book is by showing book mismatch severity. I'll zoom a bit here. So the book mismatch severity is nothing but it reflects the highest severity transaction in the file. This gives me a quick and overall risk view before I dive deeper into all the mismatches that the algorithm has found. Now, let's look at how we have classified each of these severity. I'll pick up an example of high severity transaction. Now, if you look at the transaction here, this transaction basically is a payment received and is tagged as revenue. All the transactions belonging to either debt tags, revenue tags, crypto, and gambling are tagged as high severity because this can really sway your decision in passing or funding a particular loan for a particular merchant. We also show that no plat data was found, which means we did not find a matching transaction to this particular high severity mismatch transaction. We also show the bank account that this belongs to and the amount that this particular transaction has. Medium severity, if I can show you one transaction, medium severity includes remaining Ocrolus system tags, things like ATM, tolls, investments that aren't really as critical as missing debt or inflated revenue. Now, here's where there's a little trick. Here's where the algorithm gets a little tricky. We found that bank statements and Plaid have a nuanced logic to it. Sometimes what ends up happening is same transactions are posted on different dates, 1 or 2 business days apart. We identify those transactions for you and we label them as low severity mismatches. You can see, for example, a transaction here, right? We found a dividend payment here, which is on 11th of June, which belongs to bank statements. But the same transaction in Plaid JSON is on 12th of June. We have identified these transactions and we are showing that, hey, this is something that you need to look at, but maybe you can overlook because it's low severity. Now, if you want to use custom queries to sort of make sense of all the data that has been thrown right in your face, right? What you can do is you can use the filters that are mentioned above. If you, let's say, if you care just about, let's say, revenue transactions, I can quickly go here, just search for revenue, and I'll see all those transactions which belong to revenue. Similarly, let's say I actually care about only those mismatches which belong to bank statement. I can quickly filter source for bank statement, and it will give me an expanded view of all the mismatches which belong to bank statement. Similarly, let's say that really don't worry about medium and low severity transactions. I only care about high severity. I'll apply a filter for high severity and only see those transactions which belong to high severity. Similarly, to help sort of top-down approach, what we have done is we have provided sections like critical mismatches. What this does is it gives me a count and amount of really critical mismatches like NSF, overdrafts, refund, crypto, and gambling. Another part where it really shines is we also show comparative analytics. And this is really tricky, right? Because for the overlapping date ranges, we show what is the difference for these metrics that you see here. What is the difference between bank statement as a source and plat JSON as a source? So I see, and this is worrisome, right? 15,000 worth of revenue for last 3 months is the difference for bank statements and plat JSON. So if I expand it, I can literally see that approximately 39,000 worth of revenue came from bank statements, but only 24,000 approx revenue came from JSON, which means I had underwritten assuming that this particular merchant for the last 3 months did a business or revenue of $39,000, but in actuality or digital reality is what I call it, we only did it for 24,000. He only did 24,000 worth of revenue, which means if my threshold for funding is, let's say, $30,000, I am not going to go ahead and fund it, right? So this is really going to sway the decision in terms of many gray area cases. Now, to summarize, as an underwriter, I can easily review the mismatches with tools like severity scoring, filters, critical mismatches, and comparative analytics. The result is faster reviews, more confidence, and say yes to great merchants. With that, I'll pass it over to Vicky. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Lokesh. Yeah, awesome. Great demo. Thank you so much. So as a sort of recap, we built Docs to Digital via API. It's still available via API if you'd like an API-based solution, but now you have a complete workflow product at your fingertips in the dashboard. And our beta started yesterday for this dashboard. So we would love for you to join. If you want to participate, reach out to us, reach out to your account manager. We'd love to get you involved. We don't charge for the beta programs. This is a great time to shape the roadmap, give us your feedback. But it's a quick beta, so we want you to jump in and just keep in mind that come November, we're going to release this to the broad general public. It's going to be GA. We're going to start charging. So get in now, test it out, tell us what you think, and we really would appreciate your feedback.
All right. Thank you, Nike and Lokesh. We have some questions, so let's jump into those. All right. First one that I see in here. So someone is asking, does this match testing require the borrower to provide both deposit statement uploads and plat permissioning?
I think what you might be asking based on that question is, do you need to provide both the bank statements and the plat data? And that is, yes, you do. That's what we need, those two different sources of data to be able to provide the mismatch analysis.
Great, thank you. And then can we upload any other digital data sources besides the plat JSON?
Great question. So we are looking to expand our digital data source coverage in the coming quarters. We started with Plaid because it is the most prevalent in the industry, and we think that they have great coverage over financial institutions. But we also know folks use Finicity and Decision Logic. So keep your eyes peeled. We plan to be supporting more digital data types in the future.
Great. And then you touched on this one a little bit, but just to reiterate, does this replace the API or webhook process? Can people use both? What does it look like?
Yeah, great. You can use both. You can certainly use both. So part of the benefit is if you wanted to use the API, you can. You can consume the webhooks, and in the webhooks, we have all this great information about whether how many mismatches were found and severity of the book and all that goodness. the dashboard can be used either as a standalone or as a complementary product. The one thing about this solution is that it's quite data intensive. Like all comparing all of these hundreds, sometimes thousands of transactions between bank statements and Plaid data is a lot. And so if you want to have a visual, that's why we built out the dashboard functionality. So yes, to answer your question, you can use it as standalone, you can use it as both, but it will make the review process a lot easier for you.
There's actually a state in between as well, which is Excel. We also have it exposed in Excel. So if you upload it via API and want it in Excel, you can also use Excel to make sense of it.
Yep, great point.
Great. And then, so another question here. So when we're saying that we're going to support sometime in the future for bank aggregators other than Plaid, what are we thinking time-wise? Are we thinking in a year from now, 3 months, 6 months? I know this is a
In
little.
the near term, so less than a year from now, but my engineers might kill me if I give you a definitive timeline, but keep your eyes peeled in the next quarter or two. We're hoping to have some more support.
Thanks. Okay, and then for this one, I know you had mentioned if someone is interested in joining the beta, then they wouldn't have that cost during the beta process. But is there an additional cost for dashboard access?
Yeah, great question. So the dashboard access is it's all part of the same package, so no additional cost for dashboard. So, come talk to us, reach out to us, talk to your AM, we can talk you through pricing, but the whole package, whether you use API, dashboard, both, it will be a charge per poll. So when you upload bank statements to us, obviously you have a charge for our processing and analytics. Then when you add that Plaid JSON, we charge again for an algorithmic match, but it doesn't matter if you're using the dashboard, the API, or both. So we'll reach out to us. We'd love to get more specific about the pricing.
Okay, great. And then we have another one here. So is or will there be the ability to view as a percentage estimation of risk in various categories or as a whole?
Yeah, I'd love to know what you have in mind. It's an interesting question. Not totally sure what percentage of risk could mean, but please get in touch. I'd love to hear more about what that could look like, and it's great product feedback.
All right. So if we have any more questions, feel free to put them in the last minute or so.
Yeah, if we don't have anything else, Vicky, we can give folks their time back.
Yeah, sounds great. All right.
Well, thank you all. Thanks for joining. We're so excited about this new feature. I know Lokesh is really proud, and we're excited for you to come test it out. There is literally, I should mention this one thing before you go. There's literally no tech work if you want to get started in the dashboard. So easy enough. Come to us, especially if you already have a Plaid account. It's going to be really easy to upload your JSON. So easy to test, easy to give us feedback. Thanks again, and hopefully talk to you all soon.